For the next 100 people that subscribe to my channel, I will send them $25,000 in cash. So hit subscribe. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you are new here, my name is Josh, and I love to talk about personal finance and investing, which every now and then leads me to stumble across a hilarious story. Now, earlier this past week, I believe, a fellow by the name of Mazini, who was just a really good guy influencer. That's what he really was. What ended up happening is this guy maybe got a little too deep in. No, this guy's a full-out fraudster, and he is now in jail. And I want to talk about how these cryptocurrency scams are really just delegitimizing the whole crypto thing, and I want to tell a story about the most insane scammer I've heard of in 2021. Now, Jay is your classic feel-good, good guy influencer. You know, you're scrolling on TikTok, you're scrolling on your Instagram Reels, whatever it might be. You come across some viral video of a guy like walking up to a Burger King and being like,
"Hey, are you in a bad spot? You're grinding, you're working for minimum wage. Take the month off."
He like gives him like $5,000 or something insane. And then he's like standing on top of a till in Walmart. He's like, "Hey,
it's all for love. I want to give you guys $1,000.
He's handing out cash, and you know, I can see my girlfriend watching this and be like, "Oh, he's the nicest guy ever. Why aren't you more like Jay?" Well, guess what? This is what it culminates in. So Jay Mazini essentially starts this platform and accumulates about 1 million followers on Instagram. That is no small amount. And over time, given his influence, he is able to start, you know, a clothing line, because what else are you gonna do if you have 1 million followers? I don't know. Starting a clothing line sounds like a pretty obvious bet for me. So essentially he starts this clothing line and maybe talks up how much money he's making, and all of a sudden starts to run the most ridiculous promotions I have ever heard of in my entire life. We have stories of this guy hopping on like Instagram Live or on his story and being like, "Oh hey, for the next 10 people that go and spend $1,000 in my online store, I know it's a lot, I will send you $10,000 in cash." And here's me as like a CFP, a financial advisor. I'm like running the numbers, carry the one, do the math. That doesn't check out. That's not profitable. There's no way if someone spends 1,000 and he spends 10 grand, that's gonna come back to him in any way whatsoever. You might be able to argue, sure, he collected an email and maybe he got a new customer for life. He's giving away $10,000, 10 times the amount of money that people were paying for in his store. So, I mean, things got fishy from the beginning. At that point, I would have thought to myself, wow, this guy's really rich and doing insane things. I either bet it's not his money or he's just an absolute fraud. But anyways, continuing on. Now, if those insane clothing line promotions weren't enough to kind of stray away from this whole guy and his whole following altogether, he actually gets involved with an investment management, you could call it a hedge fund, some sort of investment management, asset management company called Halal Capital. And what Halal Capital does is they appeal to Muslim investors, and that's very popular. There's halal investments all over Canada because the Muslim faith has certain things they can invest in and certain things they can't. So he begins working with his halal investment management, and he gets kind of networked in the communities within New York and New Jersey, trying to establish credibility by becoming networked with very influential and well-respected people in the Muslim community within New York. And okay, that's all fair and good. But then this is where things get a little crazy. There were stories of people, hardworking people, you know, someone who worked in a mechanic shop, somebody who was just, you know, working regular labor and saying, "Hey, Jay Mazini, that guy from Instagram, he's super rich and successful. He's offering me an opportunity for a 3-month quick flip." And what a quick flip was an opportunity to get a 30% or a 20% return over a 3-month period by investing in this investment fund. And what I find particularly disturbing is he used religious and, you know, Muslim rhetoric to try to appeal to certain people of certain faiths to invest in his fund. And what he eventually did over time was ran a pyramid scheme. And he would say that he was getting some sorts of crazy rates of return for his clients, and when they demanded to see their money or demanded where it was, he essentially said, "Oh yeah, there's just some delays in pulling up the data, but I'll make sure I'll get it to you." And then time would go on and say, "Hey, are those statements coming?" He'd say, "Ah, there's just a delay." And eventually, clients start to get fed up. They're like, "Hey, where's the 500 grand I put with you? Like, I need to see some sort of update on how this is doing. I know you're telling me it's doing great and I believe you, but I need some kind of confirmation here." What happens is Jay Mazini comes out to his investors and says, I got robbed for 18 million at gunpoint. And
Sorry.
And that is honestly hard for me to keep a straight face, because how would you get robbed for $18 million at gunpoint? Well, that's the exact same question that all the investors had. And he essentially said, well, it was in duffel bags in the back of my truck and I got robbed at gunpoint for $18 million. And the tricky thing with this is I don't even really know if it was 18 because I didn't have time to count the bills. And just this crazy roundabout story. And that leads me to believe, well, okay, why are you carrying around that sort of money? And at that point, that's exactly what his investors asked. Why are you carrying this around? He said, well, that's just a normal part of our operations in the business is we deal in cash and we have private investments and all these sorts of things. Yeah, that gets a big red flag for me and anybody with a brain. And I mean, I shouldn't say that because it's condescending. And there are honest, hardworking people who invested in this because he appealed to their values and to their faith and used that to essentially game them. Now, this isn't the end of it. What actually put Jay Mazini in jail is if you go on to justice.gov, you can actually pull up the filing against him. And he was convicted of wire fraud. And what that essentially means is, okay, get this. He's got 1 million followers on Instagram. And essentially what he does is he says, hey, I have so much money in crypto. First hilarious thing to say. I have so much money in crypto that my brokers will no longer allow me to buy any more cryptocurrency. So what that means is I'm going to become a private crypto buyer. If you have cryptocurrency, I will right now buy it for a 5% premium over the market price. That's pretty substantial, okay? So he's gonna buy your cryptocurrency for 5% over the market price just if you send him a DM. So of course people are like, sure, absolutely. People start doing just that. They start sending him cryptocurrency. Some people to the tune of $500,000, some people to the tune of $750,000 are sending him this money. And what he would do is he would send them a TD Ameritrade. I don't even know if TD Ameritrade can do a wire transfer. Anyways, he sends a wire transfer from TD Ameritrade to this person's email, but it's completely fraudulent. There was no wire transfer. He tapered with the documents. They weren't legitimately real. And what happened is that since Bitcoin is decentralized, and since they sent it to a private address that no one can really find, what ends up happening is that Jay Mazini ends up with $3 million and maybe even more. Some people said it got even larger to the tune of $10 million. But he is convicted of having defrauded people of over $3.5 million in cryptocurrency by asking to buy it and then just not sending them the money, sending them some sort of fake wire transfer. So obviously this is terrible. Obviously this is horrible. But at the end of the day, justice is restored because people complained enough. They sent in a complaint with the FBI. They took over the case and now he's been convicted. And he is facing a 20-year sentence in jail. And now here's the craziest thing. When I went and looked at the filing, Jay Mazini is my age. He's 25 years old. Okay, that's crazy. To think of me being in that position where I got so deep into a lie that I had to continually try to bail myself out with different pyramid schemes. It's like one pyramid scheme's enough, but when you're using another pyramid scheme to bail yourself out of another pyramid scheme, that's like using credit cards to bail yourself out of credit cards, but like at least twice as bad. And if I thought at 25 my life would be over because I defrauded people, that would be absolutely terrible. I'd feel crushed, obviously. I'd go to jail for 20 years. But all of this being said, guys, what's the lesson here? The lesson here is the lesson as always. It's like if you want to create wealth for yourself, there's two ways you can do it. One way is you can do it slowly, okay? The other way is you can try to provide value and hope that it gets you somewhere. For instance, okay, if I go into the world and make it my #1 goal to make a lot of money and get wealthy, I probably won't. And the reason is because people who become wealthy don't start with the idea that I want to become wealthy. They start with the idea that, okay, I want to provide a valuable product or service to my community or to my economy, and for that I will charge and I will get paid, and maybe over time I can leverage and start a company and build a business, right? The other way is to just be extremely patient and invest your money prudently, do that over the course of 40 years, and just stick to the principles of keeping your costs low, using index funds, diversifying in real estate or stocks, right? The people who decide, oh, there's an easy way to step around this whole thing. I can just go get involved in halal capital and get my 20% every 3 months, and I can retire in 2 years at the age of 30. This whole idea of trying to jump the line or get further ahead by taking larger amounts of risk, I mean, sure, there's a time and place for it, but to put all of your future on the line for something that may or may not happen, it seems a little insane to me. And I think that's the lesson of the Jay Mazini story is obviously there's going to be hucksters, there's going to be fraudsters, especially with new technologies like cryptocurrencies. What you want to do is avoid being the victim of one of these things by diversifying and being very skeptical about anything that appears to be greater than average. And sure, there are things that appear to be greater than average and they deliver, but those are the things you have to be skeptical of because more often than not, it's a scam. And it is too good to be true. So anyways, guys, this is my rundown on the most insane story it's like, how many insane stories can I hear over the course of 2 years? This is absolutely nuts. A 25-year-old scammed people out of $2.5 million, $3.5 million, and apparently got robbed of 18 at gunpoint, which I don't necessarily believe. But if you guys got any value out of the principles of this video, please make sure to hit that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on post notifications for more videos just like this one every week. And I was kidding about the $25,000 thing.